Hello and welcome to USACS Frontend Pathways. Today we'll be learning just enough HTML to build and deploy a website. We won't be using a slideshow for the simple reason that using a slideshow makes it harder to see how the language is actually used practically on a website. So the first thing you'll need to do is create a folder in a place that is accessible to you. I'm going to create a folder on my desktop here. Now I'm going to get that folder and drag it into VS Code. So the first thing you need to do to create a website is create an index.html file. The reason for this is simple. If you upload a website to any domain server or any hosting service, it'll automatically look for the index.html file and use that as the home page of your website. The first thing you need to do is type in $! Exclamation mark, doc type. As you can see, it's already highlighting that for me. I can tab that, HTML >. All this does is when we upload our website to our hosting service, or when we actually deploy our website, it'll know exactly what type of document this is, and it's an HTML document. The next thing you need to do is make an HTML tag. We do that right here. As you can see, this is the syntax for HTML. $! The name of the tag, and a > sign. This syntax won't change for any tag. Most tags will have closing tags. In this case, the HTML tag has a closing tag and a front slash before the tag name. So it's a less than sign, the tag name, a > sign, and the closing tag will have a front slash, the tag name, and another > sign. So these two combined are the opening and closing tags of this HTML element. The cool thing about tags is that you can nest them, meaning I can add a new tag within my HTML tag. Here, I'm nesting the head tag. The head tag is going to have all the information that my browser needs to know about my website that's not related to how it looks. For example, the title of a website that you see at the top, for example over here maybe, is actually the title. The title is actually contained within the title tag. So I have over here title, and I call this Hello World. When we actually open this website in a second, you'll see Hello World will be the title that you see at the top over here. The next thing we need to do is create a body tag. So body over here. As you can see, there's not much to this. We're kind of like reusing that idea of tags, and we're just nesting them further and further to create different meanings. So as I said, the head tag will contain all the information that's not actually displayed, rather information that the browser needs to know, and the body tag will contain things that are actually displayed on the document. Inside of the body tag, there are many tags that we can use. The most frequently used are the paragraph tag. The paragraph tag allows us to add a paragraph to our website. So I'm going to add a paragraph to our website that says Hello World. And I'm going to open our website inside of an actual browser. So the way that we actually open our website inside of an actual browser is we navigate to our website folder. If you're on Mac, this might be different from if you're on Windows, but if you're on Mac, you right click on the website file and you go to open with. Here, I'm going to go to Google Chrome Canary because that's the browser that I'm using. However, if you're using a different browser, it might be different for you. When you click on this, as you'll see, your website will actually be opened within your browser. So now as you can see, it says Hello World, which is the exact same thing as was displayed inside of my HTML document. So it says Hello World and Hello World. And as you can see, the title is quite different from that. I can actually change the title or make the title different to show you what that would look like. So Hello World again, just to make it different. Hello World again when I refresh the page. So this title corresponds to this, and things inside this body will actually show up on the body of your page. And just to confirm, the way that I opened this was just by right-clicking, and I said open with in my browser. And that's all I did. Bear with me. So the significant thing about HTML is HTML has nothing to do with the styling of the page. We'll talk about the styling of the page later when we talk about CSS. And we'll talk about the functionality of the page later when we talk about JavaScript. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some more tags. So I said one of the most important tags was the paragraph tag. All the paragraph tag does is makes a new line with text. So if I copy and paste this, you'll see two lines of text. As you can see, each piece of text is on its own separate line. I can also use, there's another tag called the span tag, which allows us to actually add lines of text, add text on the same line. So as I said, each paragraph tag makes a new line. So if I put a span tag over here and put test, for example, this paragraph element will make a new line after it's done. The test will be on the next line, and paragraph will be adjacent to test. So actually that did not work as expected. So what I meant by that was span allows you to create new text that's not on a new line. So if I go over here, as you'll see, span will be on the same line as this one, but paragraph will always create a new line. So if I make this a paragraph, as you'll see, it'll still be on a new line, even though it's nested within this paragraph. So as you can see, nesting has an effect in many different ways. So the paragraph tag specifically makes a new line for everything, so even nesting them will still make a new line. So the paragraph tag is cool, but we also have different things that we can use. We have specifically the italics tag, which will italicize text, and the B, and the bold text, which is B, which allows us to bold text. Oops. There you go. So now, as you can see, hello and world are italicized and bolded. A few other important tags are the link tag and the image tag. So the link tag, which is also called the anchor tag for some reason, will allow you to link different things, essentially create different hyperlinks to your website, on your website. So to understand the link tag, we have to understand a new concept called attributes. Attributes are literally just properties, kind of like properties on a Java class, that allow you to add extra information to your tag. For the anchor tag, to actually add a link, we're going to use the href attribute. So I'm going to type in href equals, I'm going to have a link over here. I might want to have google.com because I don't really know what I want to put here, google.com. I'm going to say, click me to go to Google. So now I have a new tag over here that says, click me to go to Google. When I click on this, it doesn't go to Google. And the reason why it doesn't go to Google is because I don't have the proper scheme. So the proper scheme is http:// If I don't have this part, it won't actually go to the link. So I need to have that part. It's essential. So if I go back to my website and I click on this link again, now it will go to Google, which is perfect. So that's one cool thing you could do with your website. Another cool thing is you can add images. So the way you add images is very similar to links in the sense that you have to use an attribute to add extra information. The only other thing about images is that images don't have associated text like a link does. So images are one of those exceptions to the opening and closing tags. So image tags don't have closing tags. So you're going to see what that means in a second. So it has a source attribute which allows you to link an image. And instead of having a tag like this, like kind of most HTML tags do, the image tag is just going to have a slash and then a greater than sign. So it's not going to have a closing tag. And here I can actually put a link to an image. So I preloaded an image from this site called Unsplash, which allows you to use royalty-free stock images. I'm going to copy the image address over here. Then I'm going to go back to my website, which is Hello World again, over here. I'm going to paste that link, and I should see that image on my page. Cool. As you can see, this image is really, really, really big, which is fine. I can actually add a width attribute to control the width in pixels of that image. So now my image is 500 pixels wide. As you also might notice, my image is actually on the same line as my anchor tag. And the reason for that is anchor tag, image tags, and bold, italic, and paragraph tags are all something that we call inline elements. Being inline basically means that it doesn't create a new line when we specify in our code. Actually, I kind of messed that up. Paragraph element does create a new line, but it also is an inline element. It's kind of confusing. But the anchor tag in this case isn't like the paragraph tag, and it didn't create a new line. So, for example, as you can see, the image is on the same line as this anchor, but if I wrapped it in a paragraph tag like this, it would be on a different line. So cool. Now we have images, links, and paragraphs, and italicized and bold. The cool thing about this, as I said before, is that you can nest things. So now I can actually take this link and wrap my image tag, which you can see doesn't have that closing tag. I can wrap that in a link like so. I'm going to format it to make it look nice. That didn't work. There you go. I'm going to save that. And as you can see, now if I click on this image, it'll take me to Google. And I can do this for any link, obviously. So this is cool, but one thing that is kind of weird about this is when I click on it, it always replaces my page with that new page. So there's actually an attribute to fix that. And that attribute is target, and the value of that attribute is _blank. So now when I click on this, it'll take me to a new page. So you might be wondering, how did I know to do that? The way that I knew to do that is there's a reference for all HTML elements and attributes, and that's W3 schools. So over here, I basically just went over here and I went to like anchor tag, if I can find that really quickly. And I read and I scrolled and I saw over here, it says the target attribute can have one of the following values. Self, blank, parent, top. And I basically use the blank value for the target attribute, which opens the document in a new tab or window. So that's why when we click on this image, which is surrounded in a link that has this attribute, when we click on it, it actually opens a new page. And this one is kind of blocked because we already opened it before, but that just depends on your browser and browser behavior. So now we have a title, we have some text, and oops, that was formatted weirdly. We have some text, and we have italics, bolds, images, anchors, etc. So now we can actually add some more things. There's around 2 or 3 more tags that you really need to know. One is the unordered list. So the unordered list is kind of a parent tag that allows you to kind of encapsulate list items. So I can have a list item like this: test 1, test 2, and test 3. And these list items will be presented as a bulleted list. So you see that bulleted list over here. I can make it before my image by putting it over here. And as you can see, the reason why there's a change there is because the order that you specify things in HTML affects the order that things show up on the document. So I can also change this to be an ordered list. So UL was unordered list and OL would be ordered list. And now, as you can see, they're numbered over here, which is cool. Other than that, there aren't really too many HTML tags that you need to know about. There are a few others that are used in very specific ways. There's the video tag and the audio tag. The video tag is a little bit different to use than the image tag. What you need to do is specify a video tag like this, and inside of that video tag have a source tag. You must have a source tag, and put the source attribute. And kind of in here, you would put the actual link to the video. And the only reason why I know that is I went to literally here and I went to HTML media. It's somewhere down here, HTML video. And as you can see, it has a video tag and inside it has a source tag with the actual link to the video. You can also put the type of the video and you can specify attributes like controls. And it would actually give you the controls of the video, which you kind of see like over here. If you didn't pick controls, it wouldn't have that attribute. You can also add other cool attributes like autoplay, for example, which will make the video play automatically when you load the page. One thing that you might notice is that the controls attribute doesn't have a value like the rest of them. That's because it's a Boolean attribute. It has basically a yes or no value. So if you include it, it's going to be yes. If you don't include it, it's going to be no. Yes, we have video attributes. We also have audio attributes. So I think audio works similar to video in that you have to have that nested attribute. So if I go to audio over here, as you can see, it also has a controls attribute because you often see controls on audio. So if I were to go to the demo over here, as you can see, the audio has controls. If I were to actually remove this attribute, the audio would still be there, but it wouldn't have any controls. But as you can see, you kind of do it the same way you would do video. You say source, and then you say like what the source is. In this case, it's kind of like a local file. It says horse.og or horse.mp3. Before we've been using kind of remote links like this. We can also use local files in HTML. I'm going to show you how to do that right now, actually. So if I wanted to use a local file, it'd be pretty simple as well. I could just go over here, download a file. So I could download this image, for example. I don't know why that went wrong. That's kind of weird. We'll be using that image later. And I can drag this image into my VS Code environment or workspace. So now it's inside of my folder. And if I look over here, it actually is there. I can give it a new name. I'm going to rename this by right-clicking on it and clicking rename. I'm going to call it photo. Notice how it's in the same folder. And I can actually replace my old photo, my old image, which was this one, which was just a link to that website. I can copy this and I can put photo.jpg instead. And what you'll see now is that it'll be the same image. So I can put local photos in addition to remote photos, which is cool. Another important thing to know is if you want to have folders, for example, to make your website organized, you can have photos, a photos folder. I can drag that in there, move that. I have to change this to be photos/photo.jpg. And that still works. Awesome. One other thing you might want to add to your website is a favicon. Those are actually extremely easy to add as well. So since favicons aren't actually on the page itself, you would add it to the head. You would nest it rather within the head element, right? So I can say link rel equals icon. Don't worry about how I know this. I just know this from searching it up, just like you might. I might have searched up how to add a favicon to a website, and it said use these attributes and use this tag. So I use the link tag. I say rel equals icon. I say href, I believe, equals, and then the link to the favicon. I'm just going to use this photo of the pineapple thing for my favicon. And then I have to say the type of favicon it is. And I think it's just an image/JPEG. I believe that's what it is. And then if I reload that, as you can see right here, now my favicon is that image. So we've basically gone over all the HTML will allow you to do. You can add paragraph elements, you can add bolded text, you can add italicized text, you can add images and links, and maybe make images link to things. But that's about all you can do. The only other tag that has some presentational value is the header tag, which allows you to make large headers. So I'm going to say hello world. It's going to show up hello world huge. And basically the way that this specific tag works is the smaller that you make, rather the larger that you make the number next to it, the smaller it will be. So this is a smaller version of hello world. And smaller and smaller and smaller up to 6, I believe. So I can actually make the smallest one, which would be H6, and a very, very tiny hello world. I mean, that's all I believe that there is to HTML. CSS, which allows you to style the page, is a completely different language. It has nothing to do with this. And also, actually it has something to do with this, but like not enough that we need to relearn what this is about. And then scripting, which is JavaScript, allows you to add functionality to your page, like interactions and animations and things like that. That as well doesn't really have anything to do necessarily with what you just learned. They're kind of separate things. And just to prove that to you, the way that we'd actually add JavaScript to a page is we would say script source equals, see, we're still using attributes just like before, and we would say, we would just put the JavaScript file name. So if I had like an index.js file within my folder, I would just link it there. That's all you would do to add JavaScript to your page. As you can see, it's kind of separate from HTML. You'd actually be linking something. And then for CSS, all you would do is you would say link rel equals style sheet href equals, and then in here I would actually put the real link to the CSS file. So as you can see, I'm kind of linking to other files. My actual HTML document itself doesn't really need to be modified when I add CSS or when I add JavaScript. So the HTML document itself is really just to show the structure of the page, like what text is on there, where are the links, where are the images, where are the lists, where are the videos, where is the audio. It doesn't really do much else. And yeah, that's about it for HTML. However, there's one other thing that I really wanted to cover during this session, and the thing that I wanted to cover is Chrome DevTools. So if I right click here and I press inspect, at least if you're on Google Chrome, what you'll see is Chrome DevTools. So Chrome DevTools is just like a cool thing that allows you to kind of inspect a document and make modifications and just debug and do dev things. So here you can see kind of a minified version of my page, and over here you can see the HTML that I just wrote. So if you hover over any of these tags, it'll actually highlight where the tag appears on the page. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is I can actually click on this thing and I can hover over these tags that I have on the page, and where they show up in my HTML will actually highlight. So if you're paying attention to what's happening on the right, you'll see that they're actually highlighting. So that's kind of how we inspect web pages. And over here you'll see kind of this thing that allows you to modify the size of the web page. So I can see how my web page would look like on an iPhone. So this is how it would look like on an iPhone. This is how it would look like on an iPhone X, etc., 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 right? The cool thing about this specific tool that I just showed you is, one, it will come in handy when we're actually styling things and we want to inspect kind of where the spacing and how things look on our page when we learn CSS later. But also it allows you to do like really hacky things that people like to do. Actually, one more thing that I didn't mention is you can also right click and go to view page source, and it will show you the entire source without the helpful dev tools. And you can do this on any page, including, for example, W3 Schools. I can right click here, I can go on view page source, and as you can see, it's very similar to what we saw before. We just have a head tag. I don't know where that one ends. I think somewhere down there. Point is, a head tag with a bunch of attributes. As you can see, there's a title tag and some other things that we haven't quite learned about yet, but we will learn about. It has an HTML tag. They have lang equals NUS, and the reason for that is if you want to make your website accessible, you want the browser to be able to detect what language it's in, and sometimes you'll see the browser will ask you if you want to change or translate the language, and the reason why it knows how to do this, or at least part of the reason why, is because of adding attributes like that. So as you can see, it has this huge block of text, which is actually styling, which we haven't learned about. But other than that, you can see this page is kind of exactly what we've learned about, like anchor tags, H3 tags, things like that. And as you can see, there's a lot of attributes that we haven't discussed, like title and class and style, but those are just more additional attributes. They don't actually change how you would write HTML. So actually, before I go into inspect element on actual pages and how you would do that, I want to introduce a few more elements that people actually use quite often but don't really do much. So a few more tags that I wanted to talk about are the section tags, the div tags, and the article tags. These tags, unlike the tags that we've previously discussed, these tags don't actually change the styling of the page in any way. Even though we haven't introduced CSS, you've kind of seen how italics, bold, paragraph, anchor, and image have all changed the styling in some way. For example, the anchor tag always includes this underline and this blue text or this purple text when you click on it. But the section, div, and article tags introduce no styling, but they're often used to organize the site. So for example, if I wanted to organize this part of my page, this hello world's paragraph and this other paragraph, I can wrap them in a section like that. Doing so wouldn't actually change the styling of the page. It still looks exactly the same, but I could just like section off content to make it more organized. Or if I had an actual article in the middle of my website, I could just make this into an article tag just to section off where the article starts and where the article ends, versus like a header or something like that. Another one is the div tag. It's the exact same thing. It does not change how the website looks at all. It's just used to section off content. And when we learn CSS and we actually learn why we need to section off content, you'll get a better understanding of why we do this. For example, if we have a card element that has like a card with an image and text, we might need a div element so we can have a container that will allow us to style that card. But it doesn't actually add any content to our page. So that's the div, article, and section tags. And that's just about all you will need to know about HTML. So now kind of moving on into the inspect element thing that I talked about. So inspect element allows you to do, as I said, really cool things on other websites. It allows you to modify them. So for example, here I have just a regular Nike page. As you can see, it's styled very nicely, but the actual page content is very much the same as what we talked about. We have kind of like a header, a smaller header, another header. We have text and images and all these things that we talked about before. The only difference is that they're styled in specific ways. For example, this button has a background and it has some spacing around that button and things like that, which we will eventually learn about next class. But more importantly, we can actually modify this website relatively easily. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So if I right click anywhere on the page, it'll show me inspect element. So I'll click on that. And just like before, it's going to show me, oops, let me make this a little bit smaller, and I can do that by clicking 50%. So it's going to show me all these different parts of the page. I don't really know what any of this means, but I do remember that quick tool that I showed you before, which I can click on this and kind of hover over any part of the website and see exactly which elements are kind of involved in rendering that thing. So when you click on this one, kind of see that this is rendered by an image over here. So you can also see that this image has a source over here. But one weird thing about this image versus another image is that it's actually wrapped up in this pictured element thing. And this picture element has a bunch of children that have source, if you can see that source. And basically what's happening here is it's rendering different images based on the screen size of the user. So it's saying render this image if it's at a maximum width of 639 pixels. Render this image if it's a maximum width of 639 pixels, but it's a little bit higher resolution. And it kind of has all these different images that are being loaded depending on the size of the browser or the resolution of the browser. So this specific browser that I'm simulating over here has a width of 1440 pixels and a height of 1990. So I just noticed that the last source set says min width 1024, which is 1024 pixels, which is actually smaller than what we have here. So anything larger than this minimum width is going to actually render this image, not the image shown over here. This isn't the case for most websites. Most websites just have that image, that lone image, without the picture parent element and without the source element. So I think this is the one that I've determined to use, and I can just paste that. And now it changes. So as you can see, it kind of changes because there is, it matches that specific media query. And that's about all. So I can do this for any website, as I said. So I have the Instagram landing page. As you can see, there's a bunch of tags over here, and they have attributes. They have divs, which are just used for grouping things. As you can see, this kind of image slide thing on the left is kind of grouped with this div tag, and different parts of that image slide thing are grouped even further. As you can see, we have images just like before, and nothing else is necessarily special. And again, we're also using article to group things as well. This isn't important yet, but it will become important when we're doing styling things. And yeah, that's about it. Next week we'll be going into detail about how to style things. What are some modern styling techniques such as flexbox and grid, and colors and backgrounds and borders and padding and margin and things like of that sort. See you next time.